What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, with Matt Patricia continuous losing in the city of Detroit, a lot of fans are calling for his job. A lot of fans aren't sure why he hasn't been fired yet. A lot of fans want to know when he will be fired. And, every single week it seems as though there's posts and stuff like that going out on social media. It's like, if Matt Patricia loses this game, is he finally going to be fired? And, stuff like that comes out every single week. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about it, when I think Matt Patricia will be fired, what I think is the correct time to fire Matt Patricia, and if it is in the 2020 season, who is the right coach, who is the right coordinator to take over as interim head coach to finish out the remainder of this season. Now, before we do get into the video, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying this Detroit Lions content, consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel, as it takes only 2 seconds out of your day to do so, and it helps me push this channel out to more Lions fans and more football fans such as yourselves. So if you could do that, that would be a great help, and it would help the channel out a ton. But with all that being said, let's get into talking about Matt Patricia. When's the right time to fire him, and who is the right coordinator to take over as interim head coach? Now, after the 2019 NFL season, when the Detroit Lions went 3-12-1, they held the third overall pick, and the Detroit Lions fan base was calling for Matt Patricia's job right there and then, or at least a majority of them were. The Forge decided to send out a letter to the fan base talking about their plans moving forward and talking about their expectations for this team as it refers to the 2020 season and beyond. Now, the part of the letter that I will be focusing on reads, "We are committed to year 3 of Coach Patricia's plan. To be clear, our expectation is to be a playoff contender in 2020. And then it goes on to list, stuff like, the fans of Detroit deserve a winning culture, football team, whatever, stuff that every owner says. But that line or two really stuck out to me, and I think that is the key to understanding why Patricia hasn't been fired yet and when Matt Patricia will become when Matt Patricia will lose his job as the Detroit Lions head coach. Now, to me, when I read that statement, it makes me think that the Lions aren't going to fire Matt Patricia anytime soon. They're going to wait and they are going to see, can Matt Patricia turn it around? Can he make the playoffs? And until Matt Patricia is officially and mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, until it is a 0% chance and until it is impossible for the Lions to make said playoffs, I don't think the Lions are going to fire him. I think that they are going to give him a full year. They're going to give him a full opportunity to get to the playoffs, to make the playoffs and make some noise. And, if he doesn't make the playoffs, as soon as he is eliminated and as soon as the Lions have a 0% chance of making it to the NFC playoff race, then is when Matt Patricia will be fired. At that point, he can't make the playoffs. His job is very much on the line at this point already. And, if he can't meet the Ford's expectations, then there's no way that they can rationally keep him around. And I think that, that game that he loses that officially eliminates them from the wild card race, officially eliminates them from the playoff race, is the game that Matt Patricia gets fired. Now, what game is that? When is that going to happen? Well, with the expanded playoffs, there being 7 teams in every single bracket instead of the normal 6, I would say that around 8 to 9 losses is needed to officially be eliminated from the playoffs. I think with 7 teams, an 8-8 team could very well make a run at the playoffs, but I think a 7-9 team, it is very unlikely that any 7-9 team, any team with a losing record makes the playoffs. It very rarely happens. I think it's only happened once in NFL history, and that's because the Seahawks division was trash and they actually won their division at 7-9, but 8 to 9 wins is officially, to me, pretty clear that you're not going to make the playoffs. And I think by that 8th to 9th loss is when we will see Patricia officially get fired and officially no longer be the head coach of this Lions team. But, that could be at the end of the season. The Lions could end up 7-9 at the end of the season for all we know. And, Matt Patricia might not be fired during the 2020 season at all. But assuming he is, who should be the coordinator to take over? What guys should the Detroit Lions turn to in order to make it so they can maybe finish the season on a high note, maybe get a win or two at the end of the season, and just make it look not as horrible? And who should be the interim head coach, right? That's the question we're asking. Well, it's obviously not going to be Corey Undlin. He's a first-time defensive coordinator. This is his first year ever coaching a defense. He's not been horrible at it, in my opinion. I think his play calling has been questionable at times, but has been okay at times as well. And I think that Corey Unlin is still learning how to call a defense. Corey Unlin is still learning how to be a defensive coordinator. So putting him as the active head coach before he's even learned how to fully call a defense just doesn't seem smart to me. That's not going to happen. Corey Unlin is not going to be the intern head coach, but I wanted to get that out of the way because he is one of the major three coordinators for this team. Darrell Bevell is the popular choice by a lot of fans. A lot of fans think that, if Matt Patricia does get fired, Darrell Bevell will be taking over this team. He will be taking this team to the end of the 2020 season, and then he will take a backseat once again and become just the offensive coordinator. But, and I could see why people think that, right? Darrell Bevell is the most experienced coach on this staff. He's been here the longest, and he's in his second year, as the other two are only in their first. He's been here the longest. He kind of knows things a little bit better, but I have some very, very serious questions about Darrell Bevell's play calling, Darrell Bevell's coaching decisions as a whole. And to be honest, I don't know how much of that is truly his decisions and how much of that Matt Patricia is hindering his offensive coordinator by putting running backs on snap counts and only allowing certain things to happen this way. I don't 100% know for sure that, it is necessarily Darrell Bevell's idea to put his running backs on a snap count. I don't know for sure that it is necessarily Darrell Bevell's plan and it is Darrell Bevell's scheme to throw the ball as much as it is and not run the ball as often as we should be. I don't know for sure if that is Darrell Bevell or if that is on part of Matt Patricia hindering his offensive coordinator, but as of right now, I have no reason to believe necessarily that Matt Patricia has a whole lot of influence on that offense. So to me, his play calling and his time management skills on the offense just leave me with a lot of questions and especially for a guy going to be a head coach. And I know this season is at a loss anyway and the games don't matter at that point, but I don't want to see an interim head coach take over and be worse than Matt Patricia. I don't want to see the Lions lose more games than they have to this season. And I just don't think Darrell Bevell is the right guy. And I know he's the popular vote. I know a lot of Lions fans want him to be the interim head coach, but truly I don't know if things would get a lot better under Darrell Bevell. Now, we get to the last coordinator, the special teams coordinator in Braden Coombs. And, this might sound crazy, but this is the guy that I actually think would be the best fit. And I think he would be the best intern head coach out of the three. Now, I know that this is his first year in Detroit. I know this is his first year coaching the Detroit Lions special teams, but he is not a first-time special teams coordinator like Corey Unlin is with the defensive coordinator. Braden Coombs has been a special teams coordinator for a very, very long time, and he is very good at his job. Obviously, we have one of the best special teams units in the NFL. He coached the number one special teams last year with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he came to Detroit, and the Detroit Lions didn't have a bad special teams last year per se, but he came here and the special teams got so much better. Rookie Jack Fox is the best punter in the NFL. Matt Prater is still having a good year. Jamal Agnew is having a good year. The punt coverage team is very, very solid this year for the Lions, and the special teams is probably the best unit on the field for the Lions. The special teams is the unit that is really working for the Lions, the unit that is probably the most efficient, the most effective, and the unit with the least amount of flaws. Now, that by itself is a great thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean he would be a good head coach, right? I mean, just because you're good at coaching special teams, just because you're good at coaching punters and kickers, doesn't necessarily mean you would be a good head coach. But what leads me to believe that Braden Coombs would be a good intern head coach for the Detroit Lions and maybe a good head coach overall for a different team is just how he holds himself, how he's, how the relationship with his players is, and just kind of how he speaks and how he speaks about his players, how he speaks about the team, and just kind of just the aura around him. I don't know how to necessarily explain it, but I'll try to give examples to explain what I mean.
I've seen you running down on kicks sometimes in practice. I don't know if that's just your energy or do you actually see something from a coaching perspective that's valuable when you're, running with your guys or trying to keep up with some of your guys, I guess?
I would say it's probably both. You can ask the guys around here in the building. I have a hard time sitting still in general, but particularly at practice, just kind of the way I've always been. I'm definitely not a up in the, skylift kind of coach. I like to get in the mix, be around the guys and kind of feel their speed, try to feel and see the same things that they're seeing and feeling. And I do think that, obviously there's different ways and different angles to coach from, but that's kind of the one that works for me. And I think it also lets them know, hey, let's go. This is how we practice. We're not going through the motions. There's a time and a place for walkthrough and to tempo things. But when we're out there competing, and we're out there, kind of developing the play speed that we want to be about. I want to encourage that and make sure that they know, hey, and definitely don't ever let me be out in front of you, right? That would be a problem. So just kind of the way I've always done things, and probably the way I always will. Everybody's different, but for me to be true to myself, that's kind of how I'm always going to coach.
Now, first off, I've heard a couple different times from a couple different people, a couple different sources, mostly during the Detroit Lions live streams, during their training camp live streams when they were talking about their coaches. I've heard a couple different people say that Braden Coombs will be an NFL head coach one day. He carries himself very well. He has a very good relationship with players. He's always has a top unit in the NFL on special teams with whatever team he's coaching with. And, he's very good at his job, and he has a very good relationship with players. In interviews, they talk about the punter battle, they talk about things like that. And when, in the preseason, in the training camp, they talked to Braden Coombs a lot about that punter position, because that was really the big battle on special teams. Who was going to win that punter spot, Jack Fox or Aaron Sipos? And, even without preseason, even without some of the normal things that they would be able to use to determine who would win the job, Braden Coombs was talking about making practice as stressful as possible, putting them under the most pressure, making it as game realistic as possible, having the most competition possible, and not picking a favorite. Braden Coombs did not have a favorite at punter. He made it a straight competition, best man win, made it as complicated as possible, made it as competitive as possible, put those punters under as much pressure as it possibly could be, and saw who the better man was. And I think that, sometimes the Detroit Lions seem to struggle with that. I feel like, with Christian Jones being a great example, like Christian Jones is not the best jack linebacker on the team. He's probably the worst. But for some reason, the Lions continue to play him at that jack role. Under Braden Coombs, I don't think that would happen. Under Braden Coombs, I think that he would put every jack linebacker, whether it be a rookie drafted in the third round like Julian Okwara, or whether it be a longtime NFL veteran like Christian Jones, I think he puts his players to the test. I think he puts them under pressure situations. I think that he expects very highly. I think he expects very, very good play out of his players. And I think that, he gets that kind of play out of his players. He doesn't play the guys that, he's favorites with. He doesn't have favorites. He doesn't pick favorites. He puts everybody on the field, lets them go out and compete, and the best player, the guy that is playing the best for the team, is winning that position. We saw it with the punter. We see it on special teams every single week where, the best players are out there for the special teams unit, and that is why that unit is so successful. That is why that unit is so good. Another thing, I talked about the relationships. When in meetings and press conferences with Braden Coombs, people ask him about, different punters. They asked him about different competitions, and he's always talking about joking with players and having fun, and, he expects a lot out of his players, but at the end of the day, he's joking, he's having fun with his players, and, it's not like he's been here for a long time and he knows all these guys. Like Jack Fox and Aaron Sipos were rookies, and he was talking about going out there every day and joking and having fun with them. He was joking with Matt Prater. He's having fun. He's being a player's coach to his special teams guys, and that's why the special teams players play harder. That's why they play so hard for their coach, because they love Braden Coombs. They like playing for him. They like him as a coach. They're going to go out and play harder for him because they want this guy to keep his job, because one, he's good at it, and two, he's a good coach to them. He's a good person to them, and he's not just their coach, but he's their friend. And when I know that there's kind of this stigma that players coaches aren't necessarily great coaches, but if you're a players coach, if you are the player's friend as well as their head coach, as well as their positional coach, they're going to want to play for you. They're going to like you more, and as a result, they're going to play harder because they want you to stay around. And if you are just friends with your players, if you are close to your players, you're going to get better results out of those players when it comes time for them to make a play, when it comes time for them to make plays on the field.
Have either of those guys differentiated themselves in that battle?
Yeah. Well, Kyle, you've been at practice, right? Why don't you tell me on that one? No, that's the $1 million question. Those of you that have been there have seen both of those guys performing at a high level. So I think, we're in a situation right now where it's a good problem to have to try to make a decision between two guys who are really going out and executing consistently at a high level. I've joked with both those guys. If one of you guys wants to just go out and, really crack under pressure one day and make this easy for me, that'd be great. But they haven't. They've battled. They've both, no matter what situation we've put them in, no matter how much pressure we've tried to create, whether situationally or with guys right in their face rushing, everything we've thrown at them so far, they've both handled it really well. So
another thing that I really like about Brayden Coombs, and this is the last thing that I will talk about, is that Brayden Coombs is never happy with the performances that his players puts out. And I'm not saying like, oh, he goes into the meetings and rips on his players even after Jack Fox averages 50 yards a punt. But, there have been reports to come out even recently that even after Jack Fox has been one of the best punters in the NFL, even after Jack Fox is averaging 54 yards a punt, even after the special teams unit is being very, very good and being one of the best in the NFL, Brayden Coombs is still looking for Jack Fox to raise that bar one set higher. He's still looking for Matt Prater to raise the bar one length higher. Like, he's still asking his players to improve every single day. And even though they're the best in the NFL, he's still asking them to get better. He's still asking them to raise the bar. He's still asking them to put more pressure on themselves. He's still asking them to improve and get better at their position. And, that's something we don't see out of the Lions. Like, the Lions just aren't a good football team, and I feel like Matt Patricia is just very, oh, we got to coach him better, oh, we got to do this better, very bland, and doesn't really call out the players, and doesn't really say that we expect better out of these guys. We expect these guys to play better. We expect them to step up, and Brayden Coombs does. He holds his players accountable. He holds everybody on that special teams accountable. If they make a mistake, he's going to let them know. He's going to make them play harder. He's going to make sure that they are in the right position, making the right plays, and I just feel like Brayden Coombs is a coach that understands that competition is really good. It breeds the best in competitors, and we saw that with the punter position. That was a very close, very, very competitive competition for those two, and the best player that came out is the best punter in the NFL right now. He has competition at every practice, and as a result, his special teams unit is one of the best in the NFL. He talks about joking with his players, and he's friends with his players. He's a player's coach, and those players go out and play harder on the special teams because they like working with Brayden Coombs. And then the last thing, I know I said the last one was the last one, and then the last thing is just Brayden Coombs has a very, very different personality than the other three coaches. For me, Matt Patricia, Corey Undlin, and Darrell Bevell are very bland coaches. They are very unemotional. They don't really get excited. They don't really seem to joke or laugh a lot. They don't really seem to be doing a whole lot of that. They seem, the reporter asks a question and it's, yeah, we got to work harder. Yeah, this guy's great. Yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. We're trying to get better every single day. But then you go over to Brayden Coombs interviews, and he's out here joking with reporters. He's out here, having fun and laughing and smiling and just having a good time. And it just seems like he has a much brighter personality. He has a much better personality as a head coach. He seems like a guy that players want to play for. And again, I can't necessarily explain what it is about Brayden Coombs, but just the way he carries himself, the way he speaks to people, the way he speaks about his players, it just makes me feel like he's a better head coaching candidate than even our current head coach right now. He's a guy that wants the best out of his players. He expects the most out of his players, and no matter how good his players are playing, he expects them to get better at every single practice. And he expects his players to improve every single time they take the field, and that is the mindset a head coach needs. And just the way he carries himself, the way he speaks to his players, the way he speaks to the media, his personality, just everything about Brayden Coombs makes me think that he could be a really good coach in the NFL, and I think that the Lions should give him a chance at intern head coach. Now, I'm not saying that I think Brayden Coombs should be the next head coach of the Detroit Lions. I think that, if we can keep him on special teams, just even there, I think that would be huge for the Lions because he's, obviously, as I said, very, very good at his job. But, I don't necessarily think that he should be the next head coach for the Detroit Lions. But giving this man a chance, giving this man an opportunity to prove himself, especially after having such success at a positional coordinator, especially having such success at a coordinator spot, and, having some very high remarks set upon him by his peers, by other people in the media, by former Lions and former players. I just think that he needs a chance. He needs an opportunity to prove he can coach. And if he does a good job and goes and gets a head coaching job somewhere else, that's great for him. And if he doesn't, he's still going to be here as the Lions special teams coordinator. So, in my opinion, I think that Matt Patricia will get fired before the end of the season. I think the Lions hit 8 to 9 losses before the end of the season hits. And I think that Darrell Bevell will take over as intern head coach, but I think that Brayden Coombs should take over. Because if Brayden Coombs takes over, this culture is going to get much more competitive. It's going to look a little bit more like Jim Caldwell, where the players just enjoy playing for him and they're going to play harder. It's going to be much more competitive, much closer, much more, just just much more effort is going to be given, and these players are going to want to play for Brady Coombs because he's more lighthearted, he's a little happier. He's a player's coach, he jokes with his players, he's having a good time, he's enjoying being out there with his players, and I just feel like, the way he carries himself is infectious, and that's going to rub off on his players in just a few weeks. And if Brady Coombs is given a chance, I think this Lion team plays better. I think that this Detroit Lions squad gets a couple wins under Brady Coombs, and again, I don't think he should be the next head coach, but I think that he could be a very, very good intern head coach, and I think that at some point in the very near future, he will get a spot to go head coach at a team. He will get an opportunity to go be a head coach for an NFL roster, and I think that, him being an intern head coach could be a very good opportunity for him to show the league what he can do and give him an opportunity to go out and get that head coaching gig. Now, with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about the situation. When do you think we should fire Matt Patricia? And who do you think should take over as intern head coach for the Detroit Lions if Matt Patricia is fired before the 2020 season concludes? Let me know that down in the comments below. But with all that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. If there is Lions news before tomorrow, then I will obviously make a video letting every single person know. But until then, that is all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all tomorrow with more Lions content. Bye, guys.